Okay, we are live, but we got to let it breathe, baby, just for a brief moment. And we'll get tonight's conversation fired up. Really stoked to see everybody. Hope you're doing well this Monday evening. And we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, some interesting things on the horizon. Obviously, yesterday the Chiefs gloriously collapsed and were utterly dominated by the Eagles in the Super Bowl. We'll continue to maybe talk about some of our takeaways since we've had a night to sleep on it. Last night was literally gut reaction. We went live at the final gun. But in the wake of the Super Bowl, some news, some rumors. First things first, Deebo Samuel. We touched on it yesterday, but you have a guy like RG3, right, who's a bona fide former NFL quarterback, pounding the table saying Denver is the best landing spot for Deebo Samuel. You know, Sean Payton wants his joker. Bada bing, bada bang. There you go. Your thoughts?
I'm so torn on this, Chad. I think we touched on it last night. Maybe we didn't, but it's the smoke is increasingly forming, leading Deebo to the Broncos. You had RG3, you had ESPN's Dan Orlovsky float the Broncos as a potential landing spot, and even Deebo Samuel himself said the Broncos could be something special if they just had a few more pieces. Make of that what you will. He's a good player. He was a good player, I should say, but he's going to be 29 this year. He has a $15 million salary cap number. He is extremely injury prone, and he doesn't have the best attitude. Now, do I want the Broncos to explore the resources and using it, allocating it that way, or would I want the Broncos to just find that joker in the draft? I'm still leaning toward the latter, Chad. Same as with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, we don't have Mr. Producer tonight. Scott is not in the house, and so I got to keep an eye on which of the Facebook comments are stars. Like Eric Flynn, we'll give you some props here in a minute. But yeah, dude, I'm torn on it as well because my first impulse was, nah, don't need him. I think a lot of Broncos country feels this way. They're like, well, Deebo would be great, but we actually have Marvin Mims. We have like a younger, slightly different, but like a version of that we saw begin to really come out in the wash in a positive way for the team from whatever it was, the New Orleans game, or was it the Chiefs game? I'm trying to remember. It was somewhere around between week 8 and 9. They started using him as a running back, and then they start getting him involved in the passing game as an actual receiver. And so now I'm torn because I see how he could be that mythical joker that Sean Payton is constantly talking about. And I'm getting sick of hearing the word, like utterly, dude. I'm sick of that word. But it's true that the Broncos are missing a bona fide guy. Unless they were going to, I mean, you could just make Marvin Mims that guy. But Zach, his vertical speed from the boundary is so legit that he needs to spend a lot of his time out in that sector. So you got to find someone else, I think, Zach, in other words, that can specialize. And so if Deebo can be had for a reasonable price in terms of compensation that you got to give up to the Niners, and he's open to, dealing on his contract, I wouldn't be against him. But I'm not sitting here like going headlong into trying to get Deebo to Denver.
I'm sick of that word too, but we're going to continue hearing it up until the Broncos actually fill that slot on their offense. And we did talk about it last night because Scott brought up the point about if you want to solve the running back, Deebo can play running back, but he's not a full-time running back. If they want to go out and acquire a full-time joker who plays running back or who plays tight end, that's one thing. But Deebo's natural position is still wide receiver. And if you watched him the last couple seasons, it's not like the Deebo of 2020 or 2021. He is a increasingly broken down player that you wonder, is he washed? Did he peak? Is the best behind him? And I'm not sure I want the Broncos to be the guinea pig to find that out.
Exactly. And that was something that the article we had today at MHH, courtesy of Eric Trickle, he did a good job of illustrating that. I mean, he broke down, the financial ramifications of his contract. We'll get to that. But here's actually what RG3 said. Took to X. This was actually yesterday, but he said, quote, Denver Broncos should trade for Deebo Samuel. Sean Payton said he needs a joker who can be an elite receiver that can play a running back, tight end, create mismatches, and own the middle of the field. That's Deebo. Sean Payton will understand how to use his versatility and get him back to his yak attack. All right, that sounds tantalizing. It sounds like perhaps a perfect situation, but right here, Samuel, quote and trickle, is coming off a year in which he totaled 670 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, 136 rushing yards, and 1 additional score on the ground. Hasn't been the same player, dealing with injuries and showing decline since his amazing 2021 season when he had over 2,000 scrimmage yards and 16 touchdowns. So you got to wonder, that's why not only the compensation, Zach, you would give up to the Niners, but also, look, he's due a $15.4 million option by March 22nd this year. That's 10 days after the start of the new league year. And then you look at his cost, basically, he carries a $15.8 million cap hit. So I think if you're the Broncos, you have to hedge a little if you're going to get serious about this, with under the expectation that the best is behind him. Is he really worth that kind of money to your salary cap?
And do you want to do those gymnastics when you also have Cortland Sutton to contend with, Chad? Because he's not going to be happy on his current deal as well. And it was RG3's opinion, but the verbiage that he used there, get him back to his yak attack, that sounds like a reclamation project to me. And I'm not spending $15 and wasting a draft pick on a reclamation project. Build through the draft and find your own Deebo that way.
Well, let's hear what the MHH community has to say on the subject. David Yunkin, what's up, brother? Thank you for the super chat. So consistent, supportive, adding to the conversation every single night. Really appreciate you, big dog. He says, if we had a chance for Deebo, I would, because it doesn't matter which veteran receiver we get in free agency. They've been injured. If they've been injured, maybe he's saying if they have a significant injury jacket. Your thoughts here for David?
It kind of presupposes, David, that the Broncos are guaranteed to go out and get a veteran receiver in free agency. Sean Payton said it himself to Kay Adams that they think they're stronger at receiver than other people think they do. He mentioned running back. He mentioned tight end. Receiver wasn't on that must-have list. It was on kind of the want list. So it doesn't mean they have to go out and get one. And I'm definitely not going to spend money and resources, draft picks, on a Cooper Kupp or a Deebo Samuel, players that if they were good and elite still, they wouldn't be available for trade, Chad.
Exactly. I mean, I think you can make some lemonade. There's some guys there, Zach, that could be available, but they all kind of have their drawbacks, including one of my favorite candidates to come to Denver, which is Chris Godwin. You got to worry about that season-ending dislocation that he had last year. So fair point there, David. Thank you, big dog. We also have the Papa Bear, David McElrath, checking in. Thank you, brother, every single night. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Hashtag God bless the USA. Let's go, Bo. And he says, I'm still on cloud 9 after yesterday's Chiefs beatdown. Indeed. I mean, with how loud, Zach, and kind of obnoxious the Chiefs fandom has gotten over the last 7 years, it was nice to see him dealt a decent helping, perhaps a heaping helping of humble pie.
It was the whole pie that was served, Chad, and it was force fed down their throats. You got to love seeing it. And they remind me a lot of the Patriots fans during that dynasty, maybe with the exception of Brady. You didn't really hate the team. You hated the fan base. And over the last couple years, Kansas City has gotten unbearable. They needed a reality check to be smacked in the mouth, and they were smacked hard last night.
Papa Bear, great to see you tonight, brother. Sam Bam checking in as well. We love you, Sam. He says, also, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Broncos do this offseason to maybe this. Actually, I got to go backwards because I think YouTube, they StreamYard didn't display it in order. Let's get this first one. So 2 supers from Sam Bam.
Sam.
Thank you, brother. Evening, guys. I think I speak for all Broncos country when I say that I'm glad we're not dealing with a division rival having a 3-peat. Amen. Glad the Eagles romped the Chiefs. Go Broncos. And then his second super. Also, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Broncos do this offseason to build on last year's success. Go Broncos. Indeed, Zach. And that kind of speaks to also, we've got an article coming on this at the website here in the next little bit, but you've already touched on it a little, but Deebo Samuel tapping the Broncos as one of those teams to watch. And I thought it was interesting over the weekend. I want to say it was Andrew Mason. I had a little clip. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, but Peter Schrager, who in his defense, Zach, correctly one of the few in the den of the national NFL talking heads who predicted about this time after the draft that the Broncos with Bo Nix and Sean Payton would make the playoffs. He's like, yeah, it was really impressive that it took I'll paraphrase him. It was impressive that it took a freak, that was the word he used, blocked field goal for the Broncos to basically lose that game at Arrowhead. But I don't think they're a year out from truly challenging and overtaking the Chiefs. I think they're 2 years out. For what it's worth, either way, Zach, however it shakes out, I agree here with Sam. It really feels like the worm has turned in a positive sense. There's a turning of the page, right? New era. We're back. The Broncos are back.
Yeah, it's certainly his opinion. He's entitled to it. I think the Broncos are a lot closer than people think. They're a few pieces away from seriously competing, but they could pick up those few pieces this offseason, Chad, and really go to war with Kansas City in 2025. And I think the Eagles showed the entire NFL, not just the Broncos, the blueprint and how to take down Mahomes in a big-time situation. And that is, like any other quarterback in the NFL, rattle him. Get after him, hit him, make him uncomfortable, stymie him, suffocate him, and he will do nothing against you. So Vic Fangio, even in his post-Broncos days, could be helping out the franchise by showing how to take down the mighty Mahomes machine.
Well said. Sam Bam, love you, big dog. Tonight, we're going to continue talking about some of the things the Broncos can do this offseason to, in fact, do, as you say, build on last year's success. So more to come on that. Taylor Christensen, what's good, brother? Thank you for the super chat, big dog. He says, what do you guys think of PS2 getting the Defensive Player of the Year? I'm pumped. MHH for life. Indeed, bro. It is huge. I mean, the Broncos have not had a Defensive Player of the Year since Randy Gradishar in 1978. That was the Orange Crush year, right? The birth of the Orange Crush. And frankly, there have been some good candidates. Like every time Von Miller had one of those transcendent years, J.J. Watt was just a little bit better in terms of the production. Like twice off the top of my head, 2012 specifically, you could maybe throw, I'm not sure, 2015. Either way, there was always just one guy slightly better to where you wanted to see it go to Von as a Broncos fan, but your argument wasn't on the soundest of ground for it going to J.J. Watt instead. You go back to 2005, though, Zach, Champ Bailey got utterly, fully, completely robbed in the voting. And, pardon me, whatever it was, 8, 10 interceptions. I don't have it right in front of me. It was either 8 or 10. I think it was 10 and then 8 the next year or the other way around. But 2005, Zach, it goes to Jason Taylor and his 13 and a half sacks. And I think the frustrating component was that the Broncos, 2005, they got all the way to the AFC title game. They were a winning team. So either way, robbed. Finally, Zach, you get some satisfaction. PS2, very deserving.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. In 2016, didn't Von lose by 1 vote to Khalil Mack?
You might be right. Let me.
Or was that just a fever dream I had? Regardless, though, Taylor, there was no other. I think we talked about this the night it happened, but there was no other way for it to go. PS2 had the most dominant defensive season in the NFL. He was deserving of the award, and now he's officially on the map, Chad, as a household name in the sport of football.
Okay, let me see here. I'm going back into history. So, per Barry Wilner of the AP, that season that you referenced, Mack earned 18 votes of the 50-person panel, while Vaughn earned 17. So you're right.
My memory is undefeated.
One. Good job on that, big dog. But, be that as it may, finally got over that hump. And honestly, in kind of I don't know that he was like, I'll tell you this, not to take Zach anything away from PS2's 2024 body of work, but it was nowhere near as dominant, overwhelming, game-changing, fortune-changing for the team as Champ Bailey's 2005 campaign was, for what it's worth. So I'm just glad he got it, dude. I'm just glad he got it. I'm not looking that gift horse in the mouth.
No, the reason I brought that up about Khalil Mack was we were all so despondent, as we should have been when Von lost, and now a Broncos player won. We're not going to poo-poo it. We're not going to look that gift horse in the mouth like you were talking about, Chad. I'm just happy for him, and I'm happy for the Broncos getting some of that national recognition.
Yeah, 2005 Champ had 8 interceptions. In 2006, he had 10 interceptions. Now, 2005, the Broncos were a winning team. 2006 is where things started going to pot for Mike Shanahan because of his fateful decision to turn away from Jake Plummer about 3/4, little over actually half through the regular season, and go to Jay Cutler, despite the fact that Jake Plummer had the Broncos in first place in the AFC West, and they ended up losing enough to not even make the playoffs. That was that fateful Niners game that decided it, and we all know what happened that night, Darren Williams and whatnot. So anyway, fun to reminisce. MBLEX test prep. What's good, brother? Thank you for the super chat. Zach, you had the article for us talking about the New Orleans Saints tight end, Juwan Johnson. And test prep is saying, sign Juwan, draft a tight end in the first or second. Too easy, I think is what that means. Too easy.
Yeah, I'm assuming. The thing about Juwan, the article I wrote, Mike Kliss from 9 News caught up with Juwan, I believe in the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and he was asked about possibly reuniting with Sean Payton. Juwan Johnson played for Sean Payton for 2 years in New Orleans, and Johnson's going to be a free agent in March. And he said, I just want to go where I feel wanted, whether that's in New Orleans, in Denver, doesn't really matter. I just want to go where I can play. That's understandable. He was also asked about what it's like to be coached by Sean Payton. He said it was great. He said he's going to push you. He really had nothing but praise for Payton and that entire operation. Would it be would it be the end all be all, Chad? Would it be the solution, a slam dunk upgrade, and you can set it and forget it? No, you'd still want to address the position. But Johnson would be, at least as a pass catcher, a wholesale upgrade over Adam Troutman, Nate Atkins, Lucas Krull, Thomas Yasmin, and all the rest of the group in Denver, Chad. So I'm for it. If they still want to go after Loveland in the first round or Tyler Warren in the first round and pick up Johnson, that's a good way to address that problem.
All right, guys, we do have lots more to get to tonight, including many more of your questions, comments, and super chats. But first, guys, hey, the football season's in the books, but we still have basketball season to look forward to for we sports fanatics. And when your favorite star scores a bucket, we're alley-ooping you an opportunity to win some money from watching sports with Underdog. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now in your state. You want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog.
To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats like points, assists, rebounds, and more. Underdog's got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks or mix and match across other sports. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your basketball knowledge.
That's right, guys. So again, you've heard me say it more than once. I love using Underdog. It makes it so much more fun. Plus the upside of winning up to 1,000 times your money. It's so fun. So download the Underdog app. Sign up now using the promo code MHuddle to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with our promo code MHuddle and claim your special offer today. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
All right, we go back to the chat and give Eric Flynn some props. Thank you for the stars, Big Dog, on Facebook. Great to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well. We also have Cody Dubb checking in, one of our bona fide Super Chat superstars, to say, thank you, Cody, saying, I think it's safe to say we want Zach Bond in free agency. And by the way, Zach Bond, easy to remember. Zack Kelberman spells Zach, Z-A-C-K. That's how Zach Bond spells. Just, that's just the editor in me.
The correct way.
Keeping you on the straight and narrow, Cody. But he says, we want Zach Bond in free agency. He looked good in that Super Bowl. Well, yeah, dude, he was a Defensive Player of the Year finalist. Yeah. Phenomenal season. And that translated through the postseason tournament. He says, plus stats on the regular season, pretty good. Yeah, dude. And you know what I learned today? I didn't realize this because I don't follow the Eagles per se. But apparently, Bond was a Vic Fangio thing. Like he wanted the Eagles to sign him. He's like, "This is the guy for my defense," and boy, oh boy, did it pay off in spades.
Yeah, I said this before, but Bond is like a better version of Sternat. He can actually play, but he started off as a backup special teamer. He was known by no one outside of Philadelphia, but he was a Sean Payton, I believe, draft pick in New Orleans. So there's some history there. The only problem, though, Chad, is while the Broncos would love to have his range, he's a 3-down inside linebacker, upgrade on Cody Barton, upgrade on Singleton. He's going to be expensive. And I would assume he'd be more inclined to stay with the team that just won a Super Bowl and not really shop his wares otherwise. Even if he does get outside, though, he might be more expensive than the Broncos are willing to pony up.
Depends on what he's prioritizing, because he does have the ring, so now he can go, well, I want to secure the bag. I want to make as much possible money now as I can, within reason, right? Like I'm not going to go play for, say, the Raiders or something. I'm going to play for a team that is a viable threat for the playoffs. And by the way, how about the guy who drafted me in New Orleans? Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. They have a big need. They're knocking on my door. I could see it happening, but I think, Zach, it really does depend on how much Philadelphia pursues keeping him in the fold. So, Cody, we will see how that shakes out, my friend. Taylor jumping in again to say, pass on Deebo and Cooper Kupp. I'd rather go for Garrett. Now, are you okay? So we're talking about Garrett Wilson. The double R double T Garrett spellings. Now we have to actually, context clue and ensure we're not talking about the defensive, end in Cleveland. So, but we know you're talking about Garrett Wilson.
There's only one Garrett I want in Denver, and it's not Miles. It's Garrett Wilson. And Chad, if there's one receiver who could come in via trade or a veteran that could be brought aboard, this is the guy that I would go broke for. Not literally, figuratively. You could talk him down, maybe second, fourth round pick, whatever, but there's upside with Garrett Wilson. He's not coming off a major injury. He's not going on 30 years old. He did nothing but produce in New York with crappy quarterback play. He would make an amazing compliment to Cortland Sutton and take one more need off the Broncos board. But then again, I harken back to my own comments that Sean Payton made. Are they going to go after a receiver? Do they feel it's important? Was that a smokescreen? Was he throwing everyone off, or was he being legitimate? We shall find out. But Taylor, we are hive mind on this. Big fan of Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. Mason checking in. A newer name that I could see. So welcome. Thank you for the super chat, big dog. Says, hey guys, I've been a listener since 2019. OG, since the beginning of the live stream aspect. Zach and I have been together on the pod since 2018.
Yep.
But we took it live as a live thing. That's right. The football season of 2019. Anyways, I've been a listener since 19, but never had the chance to donate. I was part of the halftime show last night. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Really cool, dude. Well, hey, man, thanks for sticking with us all those years, and thank you for the super chat, Mason. And congrats to you. That's really cool. Be curious to know how you contributed. And it was kind of, I don't know if I'd quite say that controversial, but people either loved it or they hated the halftime show yesterday. And to me, a halftime show is, it's just kind of part of the picture. Like, I watched yesterday's and thought it was cool. I'm not a huge rap music fan, so like I didn't know the music, but it was cool.
I think the halftime shows are more of a wives and girlfriends kind of thing, Chad. I don't know. I turned off the channel. I did something else during the halftime show. And I'm a Kendrick Lamar fan. I just thought it was kind of boring. It was lacking energy, and he just wanted to take shots at Drake the whole time, which I get. I like the pettiness. But Mason, let us know. Were you working with the halftime show entertainment? Were you working with Kendrick? Let us know. That's really awesome, and we appreciate you chiming in tonight.
I thought it was pretty cool. And by the way, Mason, congrats to you. That sounds rad, bro. Patrick, great to see you. Wiltsy across the Pacific Ocean in paradise saying aloha priests. Time for coffee and golf practice. Coffee, anyone? Yeah, dude. Hook us up, dude. Let's go. Let's get it going, man. Straight into these veins. Yeah, I'm just kidding, but you know what I'm saying. I am a little bit of a caffeine. I kind of gotta be, because it takes a lot of like high frequency to copy, edit, and write articles all day long, and then show up on a camera and a microphone and not sound like a complete zombie. Caffeine helps me through that, Patrick. So yeah, coffee, let's go. And golf, hey man, I love golf when I have the time to play. I love playing golf.
I want to plug Pat like I always do, lioncoffee.com. My personal favorite, I always say this, I'm a big time coffee snob. Love Patrick's coffee, lioncoffee.com. Appreciate you, bro.
Really cool, guys. And I know the Broncos for Breakfast guys also can vouch
Yeah.
for the quality of Patrick's lioncoffee.com. So check it out. Adriano X90 in the house. What's up, bro? Thoughts on tight end, receiver, and running back in the first 3 rounds? Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, like thoughts on specific players. Is that the order of priority? So I'll just kind of generalize here, Zach, but the more time passes, the less urgent I feel the need to go offensive weapon in the first round because of how deep the class is at these 3 positions. We know the Broncos are going to load up. They got to get a tight end for the now and the future. They got to get at least one more wide receiver to complement what they have now. And running back is the biggest dire need. Like if they're going to war tomorrow, they don't have the horses. They need They need 2 running backs to really meet the standard and that level of production and execution for upper echelon contender in the AFC. So there are some great candidates. I mean, we know the big 3, as it's already been coined at MHH for the first round, and that's Ashton Genty, the Boise State running back. That's Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end, and that's Colston Loveland, the Michigan tight end. But I'm telling you, this is going to be a deep draft where a lot of studs, a lot of stars, Zach, that go on to produce and have great NFL careers are going to come out of day 2 and even day 3.
Yeah, I saw CBS Sports Mock earlier. They had the Broncos taking Ekbuga at number 20, the Ohio State wide receiver. I interpreted this question as, what if the Broncos went tight end, receiver, and running back to back to back?
Yeah.
I don't know that as much as I don't want to be hypocritical. I've said they need to load up the offensive supporting cast for Bo Nix, get him more weapons, yada, yada. But you also have needs on defense. And we don't know how they're going to fill those on the open market, but you can't ignore the defensive line. After seeing what Philly did to KC, you can't ignore inside linebacker. You can't ignore safety. You can't ignore cornerback. There's a lot of needs on that side of the ball too. So I'm with you on maybe the first round. I still think they shouldn't cut off their nose to spite their face, Chad. They shouldn't overthink it. If they like Loveland and he's sitting there, then just take him. Get Bo Nix a tight end for 10 years and put it away. But don't discount in the second round going defensive line or maybe even the first round. It's a sneaky position for the Broncos to target at 20, Chad.
Well said. And thank you, Adriano. Appreciate you. We have another legendary figure in the community checking in. D-Dub, also
Thank you, Dale.
in Hawaii. Love you, big dog. Great to see you tonight. Thank you for the super. He says, pass on Deebo and Kupp. Deebo has the wrong mindset for our locker room, in my opinion, and Kupp is injury prone. Rather focus on different positions in free agency. I hope we can secure extra picks on day 2. Loved watching the Chiefs get smashed. Broncos for life. Yeah, that was one of the spices of life. One of the spices of the 2025 calendar year so far, I think, for Broncos country. That was chef's kiss. But I'm not sure how the Broncos could secure extra day 2 picks outside of trading away very valuable players. But I'm with you. Let's stockpile that war chest, D-Dub.
They could trade down at a 20 and move to, 25, 28 or whatever and pick up a second round or third round pick. I wouldn't be opposed to that if and only if Warren, Genty, Loveland, and whoever else they have as a first round pick are off the board. But I like the way you're thinking, Dale. Build from within. Let George Payton do his thing. You can go get your own Deebo. Go get your own Cooper Kupp in the draft. They don't play running back. They don't play tight end. And those are the 2 biggest positions the Broncos should be prioritizing.
That's true, man. This particular draft, it would not shock me if the Broncos trade back, just depending on how the board falls.
Yeah.
But there are some great options day 2, so we shall see. But when you say rather focus on different positions in free agency, you mean not wide receiver, right? So like, I'd be curious to know what the key positions for you are, because if you look at it from a philosophical perspective, Zach, you're supposed to NFL teams. Hey, we used free agency to fill the immediate holes that are going to be affected in the present. And it's not that you don't expect your draft class to contribute as soon as right away, but they're more for the future, right? So free agency is for the now, draft is for the future. And sometimes teams get really fortunate. They do a good job and they draft players that can contribute right away. And we saw that last year with the Broncos 2024 draft haul. So for me, when I look at the biggest holes that, again, think about if we had to go to war tomorrow, what are we missing? It's inside linebacker, it's safety on defense. You've got enough horses on the D line, I think, to at least hold down the fort at a level pretty close to what you were. That's without making any other additions. DJ Jones, right? He's hitting free agency. His purported market value is ridiculous. I do not expect Zach him to be worth 11 million, but I digress per year. The other big needs, as I mentioned earlier, is running back, tight end, wide receiver. Now, of those three, running back and tight end, those are like immediate needs. You got to get those filled. Receiver, you can argue there's an immediate need, but Zach, unfortunately, and Bob had an article on this today, Bob Morris at MHH, the running back free agent crop is not that interesting. I mean, once you get past Aaron Jones, who's getting long in the tooth, I'm not sure the answers are there in free agency. So this might be one of those drafts, and then I'm serving it back to you, where the Broncos have to go into it looking for starting caliber running back with the 3 premium round picks.
I think you nailed it, and I think Dale nailed it as well. Free agency, in my opinion, preferably should be about addressing inside linebacker and safety. I mean, inside linebacker, you have Robert Spillane, who the Broncos were connected to, safety Javon Holland, Hufanga from the Niners. There's a couple options there for sure. It almost seems like, Chad, offense is going to be addressed through the draft and defense will be addressed through free agency. That's how, in a perfect world, I would go through with that.
Thank you, Dale. Appreciate you, big dog, again, and obviously your thoughts contributing to the convo. Let's see what Ralph Bracegirdle want to know. Any chatter about Jamar Chase? Well, Ralph, it's good to see you tonight, bro. So this is one of those things. Eric's talked quite a lot about Jamar Chase as he'll be the first one to say very distinctly low probability option for Denver. But the only reason, Zach, this is even a conversation is that he wants a new contract. And the Bengals are one of those teams that have traditionally been not only cheap, Zach, but slow to pay their guys. And there have been signs in, let's call it the Joe Burrow era that they have turned over a new leaf with their philosophies, but he still hasn't been given a new contract. He will, as it stands, Zach, he's staring down the barrel of playing out a contract year on his 5th-year option. And so there's some curiosity surrounding just how happy he is. Would he be looking to force his way out of Cincinnati, etc.? That's the last thing I've heard on this, unless I missed something today, Zach.
I think it's insane that they didn't get a contract done for Jamar Chase last season and let his value go up only even higher. T. Higgins, same thing. And they also have Trey Hendrickson, who is a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, to contend with contractually. I don't know that Jamar Chase is leaving Cincinnati. I don't know that he's coming to Denver. I think it's like a very low probability. But if there's even a 1% chance, if I'm George Paton, I'm making that phone call because that is a whole different level. I've been talking for months. I don't want the T. Higgins from Cincinnati. I want the Jamar Chase. So I would offer multiple draft picks. I'd pay him whatever he wants if that was a possibility. I don't see it happening, Chad.
I don't either. But there's your update, Ralph. Mason's given us his involvement. So he would quote, I was part of the crew that put the stage together. Awesome. Thanks, guys, for the Super Bowl halftime show, which is really cool. Congrats to you, Mason, on that. And I always marvel at that. As a concert goer, I go to sometimes you go to these concerts that are like, whether it's a festival or like a big arena show, and you look at the stage setup and you're going, man, I'm trying to it boggles the mind, the amount of work that goes into getting this set up and ready for a big stage show. But then, Zach, you throw into that for guys like Mason, having to do that on the fly with a very limited amount of time in a Super Bowl halftime window. So I marvel at that. And you and your crew must be wizards, Mason.
Yeah, I swear I'm not glazing, but what I saw from the halftime show, I think the coolest aspect was how the stage looked and how it was lit up and the aesthetic of it, the optics of it, Mason. So job well done. And it doesn't sound like you got to meet Kendrick, but you still did a hell of a job putting together the stage for him for the halftime show.
Good job, Mason. Okay, so thank you for that clarification. Zach, what do you, Ian Garrett wants to know on Facebook, what do you think the Broncos need to take them to the next level? It's multiple things, Ian. It really is. But
You nailed it earlier. You said it.
well, go ahead, expound upon it.
You said it. They need a running back. You can't win. Look at the Eagles with Saquon Barkley, the Ravens, even the Bills with Cook. You need at least an upper tier running, at least one. You can have a committee. I mean, the Lions did it, the Bills did it, but you need to have one upper echelon running back, especially Chad, when you have a young quarterback captaining your team. So you said it earlier, and I 100% agree.
And last year, you had some real studs hit the free agent market. You had Derrick Henry. You had Saquon, and what's the kid's name that went from Vegas?
Josh Jacobs.
Thank you. That was the main one that we know. If the Broncos had been in a little bit better cap situation,
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs would be a Bronco. Sean Payton loved that dude. But yes, really, running back, sure. To get to the next level, Ian, they need to kick this offseason's butt. Like, this needs to be another one of those ace level offseason hauls through the free agent veteran market and the draft, and making also, Ian, good decisions on, they got 19 free agents hitting the market. Who of them are worthy of bringing back? Are any of them? I mean, you got a few guys like exclusive rights guys like Jaquan McMillan that's coming back for sure. But I mean, let's just keep it, Zach, focused on the 13 unrestricted guys like DJ Jones. Just making good, smart decisions and going out there. I think once you have your plan of attack and to quote Sean Payton, your must, needs, and wants, smartly executing it. And I trust the Paytons, right? Even though it's spelled different, I trust the Payton boys to get that done.
The good thing is, in my opinion, there's not one UFA the Broncos have that is an absolute must sign that they can't live without. They have to bring him back. Those are all players they will be upgrading on, including Javonte Williams, including Cody Barton. So I say they're an elite running back, an elite inside linebacker, and a few pieces on defense away, maybe another defensive lineman, maybe a safety from really competing in the West and in the NFL, Ian.
We've got Drake Wally, friend of the show, likes to support, has his own podcast, does his own writing on S-Side on the Colts site. So great to see you tonight, Drake. Thank you for the super chat,
Thank
bro.
you, Drake.
Couple O legends. You're a legend. You know this, Drake. Shout out to Broncos country and Pat Surtain winning defensive player of the year. Do you mean Pat Surtain the third? And then when he gets on the stage, it says Myles Garrett on the lower third, graphic cron, whatever they call it. What a joke that was. I mean, at least he got the award, Zach, but it was like, duh.
It was another Case Keenum moment for the Broncos and their lore.
Yeah, but in this case, it wasn't one of their own that was botching it. It was the NFL Honors TV crew and Terrell Owens.
Yeah, but thank you, Drake. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm just so happy. I don't care how the voters, broke it down. I don't care what opposing fan bases think. And that's what I tweeted earlier, a few days ago. I don't want to hear the word Sauce Gardner ever again. I don't want to hear Trent McDuffie. I don't want to hear any cornerback in the conversation of PS2. He's in a league of his own now.
Sorry, guys. I'm still kicking this chest cold. It's mostly gone, but still hanging on a little bit. Lucas, props to you, buddy. Good to see you. Yeah, we're stoked on next year as well, but we got a long row left to hoe. We're talking about big things here on how the Broncos get to that next level. So keep it locked with MHH all offseason. It's going to be fun. Cody Dubb jumping in again, saying absolute, and thank you, bro. Says absolutely we need a running back. Chiefs sold out to stop Barkley, and Jalen Hurts made them pay for it. I believe Bo would do the same with a good running back. Yeah, as we mentioned last night, I mean, Saquon, Zach, toted it 25 times. He had barely over 2 yards per carry. The Chiefs have a very good defense. They shut him down, and it put the onus on Jalen Hurts, and he answered the bell. But one of the things you noticed there is the Chiefs were shutting down the run. But unlike we've seen Sean Payton in his first 2 years as head coach in Denver, the guys in Philly, Nick Sirianni, his crew, Kellen Moore, they stayed committed to the run to keep that as a plausible threat for the to the Chiefs defense, and it paid off in spades. They had some big chunk plays off play action, and then of course Hurts Zach made a lot of magic with his legs.
That's such a good point. And speaking of Kansas City's defense, Nick Bolton, the inside linebacker, another would-be free agent. Wouldn't mind the Broncos pursuing him as well. But I saw a stupid narrative on X last night, Chad, about Saquon is that, oh, well, he was shut down today. And it's just proof you don't need a dominant running back. The only reason they got to the Super Bowl was because largely of Saquon and the season that he had. So Bo Nix had a historic rookie season. This is, the worst quarterback in the draft, second round pick, weak arm, yada, yada. 10 games he won, led the Broncos back to the playoffs for the first time in a decade, historical numbers, and he did so without any semblance at all of a running attack, Chad. He had multiple games where he finished as the Broncos' leading rusher. You put a dynamic running back in the backfield, just imagine how good he can be in year two.
No doubt, no doubt. D-Dub jumping in again with a very
Dale.
generous super. Thank you, Dale. We love you, big dog. He says, obviously, things will change by the time draft day comes around, but what 2 free agent signings would you like to see in a dream scenario and each of your first 3 picks? What would it look like if we were to draft today? This is an interesting put you on the spot. Zach, I'll let you go first.
Zach Bond, inside linebacker. That'd be my dream signing. And I'd say I'm going to keep it realistic. I don't think I have any other. I'm not going to say T. Higgins because he's not my first choice. I'm going to say Javon Holland, if only because he was tandem with Brandon Jones already. He's a very capable player, and he would solve a major need going into the draft, Chad.
Yeah, keeping it free agency. First on the wish list for me is Zach Bond. But just to keep it different than Zach, Nick Bolton. In fact, I don't mean to make it the Denver Chiefs here, but also to change it up at safety, Eric Reed of the Kansas City Chiefs is really interesting to me. But I'll put him to the side, and I'm going to say Bond / Bolton, and then I'm going to say you're going to probably spend a bag to get those guys, and so I'm going to say Chris Godwin would be number 2 in free agency for me because you could probably get him at a relative discount, and he could go on to do great things for you, provided the health checks, the health stuff checks out. As far as the draft, the dream scenario for me would be Ashton Genty in the first round. To me, that would be like, oh man, the football gods are smiling on the Broncos. Day 2, day 3, round 2, sorry. Round 3, is your dream number 1 overall, first round pick, Zach, is that different than Genty?
I would put Genty and War in almost a 1A, 1B, Chad, because both will be dynamic contributors in the Broncos offense. But I would have to agree with you. I think Genty would be my dream at 20.
The guy to watch for me, and maybe you don't have to take him in the 3rd round. I've been talking about him. I'm going to pull up his stats. Jarquez Hunter, the Auburn running back. Now, in my scenario, that's the dream, right? Like the dream scenario is Genty. Do I find it a probable scenario? No, I don't. And so in the event, and even if you do get Genty, round 3, round 4, we don't have a 5th round, but we have 3 6th round picks. So somewhere between round 3 and round 4, Jarquez Hunter, who just impressed me to no end at the Senior Bowl. And to quote one of the insiders there that covers Auburn that Scott and I were chopping it up with, he's a guy that'll go in the mid rounds and then go on to play 12 years in the NFL. It's not easy for a running back, guys, to play 12 years in the NFL. When a running back plays that long, not to say that this is some kind of Nostradamus, but this is a guy, let me just put it this way, knows what he's talking about. When a running back has that kind of potential staying power in the league, there's a reason why. And so you ask yourself, well, wait a minute, why aren't more people talking about Jarquez Hunter relative to draft stock and, top of the draft options, which he's not. He's not mentioned in those conversations. And I think it's questions about his actual 40 times, Zach, his actual speed. So we'll be watching closely to see how he tests at the combine. But that's a guy, even if you get Genty in the first round, that's a guy that I'm trying to see if I can't land a little bit later on.
Yeah, if you can play, you can play. And game speed is different than testing speed. So we'll see what comes of him. In the second round, if you don't get Genty, if you go Loveland or Warren or whoever, Eminwari or Ekbuga, maybe Travion Henderson, running back, another guy that I really like a lot, if only because he's so quick, Chad. His acceleration, his speed, playmaking ability, catching out of the backfield. I feel like he'd fit really nicely in a Sean Payton offense.
Yeah, but really good questions. Thank you, D-Dub.
Yeah,
We love you, big dog, making us think, and I love it. Todd Ostendorf, great to see you on Super Chat. You're in the chat every night, but we always appreciate you when you throw down on Super Chat, my friend. He says Warren, Loveland are gone, and that's assuming probably that Genty's gone. Who do you get? It's unsexy, but you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and Nick wrote about this today. Great article, guys. Go read it after the show. But the Philadelphia Eagles, the number of first-round picks that they have on their defensive and offensive lines, you can't you can't undervalue that. And so one guy, it's unsexy. Fans would kind of go, really? That's what we're doing? Would be Gray Zabel, the interior offensive lineman from North Dakota State, who just skyrocketed up boards as a result of the Senior Bowl. That's a guy that is now you have, I mean, remember the Broncos offensive line, for whatever it's worth, we question PFF grades and whatnot, but their actual metrics that they measure and stuff, legit. All right. Their actual football analytics are legit. The Broncos, Zach, finished as the number 2 rated offensive line in the NFL last season. So you go, well, hey, wait a minute. Do we really need, I mean, if we're that good, the only team ranked higher than us on PFF were the Eagles. Well, hey, I want to surpass the Eagles. If those guys are gone, give me Zabel.
Yeah, I'll kick it to the other side of the trenches as well. Walter Nolan, the Ole Miss defensive tackle, it might be, like Chad said, unsexy. You're not going to get the fanfare like you would if you took a Warren or a Genty, but you got to build up the defensive line and build up the cupboard because the Eagles showed you the blueprint. And that's get after Mahomes, send swarm after swarm of defensive pass rush at the quarterback, and never have anyone incapable of doing so. So Nolan is on my board as well. Also, if they want to move back, Eminwari, the safety, could be an option for Denver if they don't address that with a veteran. Also, I mentioned Ekbuka. I really like his ball tracking ability, Chad. Late hands, makes good contested catches, great speed. If they want to move down a few spots and still pick up some help for Bo Nix, I might look that way.
Good stuff. Thank you, Todd. Really appreciate you, bro. Our friend here, String Guy, pardon me, there's that chest cold. Chad and Zach, who can we get on the D-line in the middle rounds? Well, I saw some interesting dudes at the Senior Bowl, and I'm one of the guys I'm going to be really curious to see how his draft stock develops as we march closer to the draft. Because, again, you got the Combine coming up, you got Pro Days, is actually Darius Alexander of Toledo, who is just amazing. I think he's more viewed, though, as like probably a top 50 pick is probably how he shakes out. But there will be some options. I mean, guys we saw at the Senior Bowl, Aeneas Peebles from Virginia Tech was a guy that really stood out to me in person. And if you're talking middle rounds, like 4th, 5th, Yaya Black from Iowa is a guy to keep an eye on. But this is there's going to be some options for the Denver Broncos. And D-line, I predict it right now. What do they have? I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I mean, they have 7 draft picks, even though 3, no 5, no 7, 3 6s. At least one of them will be a defensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, not to, give you a cop-out here, String Guy, but Chad and I are going to be at the Combine in a few weeks, and I want to see how these defensive linemen test and how they run and perform, and I'll have more of an accurate answer for you then, but it could be a case where they bring back DJ Jones, they might sign another veteran or push that position to the back burner, or like I mentioned, Walter Nolan in the first round of 20, don't sleep on that, or somewhere in the 20s with a trade down.
Okay, guys, here is the Here, I want to just transition for a second. And now I want you to keep in mind, this is Bob Morris of MHH. This is his top 10 free agent running backs. And I want you guys to tell us which of these guys interest you. But he's got Aaron Jones in order. You guys, you can see that on the screen. Yeah. Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Kareem Hunt, A.J. Dillon. He's got Pookie listed at 5, Najee Harris at 6, Ty Johnson, Rico Dowdle, Nick Chubb, Alexander Madison. Now, Zach, you and I have talked about Aaron Jones. We like Aaron Jones. We kind of depend on what he was after, considering his age. But of this remaining, let's say 9 guys, who could you see maybe not being the answer, but if you're thinking about, again, putting it in the context of, oh, we're going to war tomorrow, who of those guys do you think gives you the best chance?
Really, none of them. If we're being totally honest, Chad, a lot of these guys are either injury prone or had their careers ruined by injury. Nick Chubb screams to mind. Madison is the complete definition of a jag. A lot of these guys are backups. Najee Harris, to me, was a first-round bust. We know what Javonte is. Kareem Hunt's on his last legs. And even Aaron Jones, he's what, 30, 31 or whatever, Chad, going to be 30. He's not the long-term solution either. Maybe because I wrote about him and I know a little more about him than most others because we do this for a living. Rico Dowdle, a little-known backup in Dallas. He took over for Zeke Elliott, got 1,000 scrimmage yards in 2024. He can catch out of the backfield. So if you're looking plainly at what Sean Payton wants and a guy with a little bit of upside, I'd say Dowdle, but this is a list I'm avoiding, Chad. PU.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great. J.K. Dobbins was a disappointment, in my opinion, with the Chargers, but he wasn't exactly a bell cow. Like there could be something redeeming there, but I just wanted to bring attention to that. Now, there are other options on the free agent market, but that really is kind of the headline list of guys. So I'm not sure outside. And by the way, Jones is entering his age 31 season. So he just turned 30 in December. And so you got to really start hedging against Father Time being undefeated and doing his thing when it comes to any interest in Aaron Jones. We have the Lady D, Deanna Hendry,
Thank you
jumping
so
in off the top rope. And by the way, we saw your super thanks that you threw down after last night's gut reaction to the Super Bowl. And love you. Thank you so much for your support, Lady D. We hope one of these days we get a chance to actually meet you in the flesh and hang out and get to know you even better. But thank you so much for all your support here at MHH, especially in the off season. Really, really helps us keep the lights on. So thank you. Zach, she says, evening, Chad, Zach, and Scott. Scott's out, but he'll hear this. We need a tight end and a very good running back. We're in good shape for this year. I'm not stressing basically 2025 at all. Hashtag MHH for life. We're in good shape with the resources we have to fill some of those needs to make it a year that you don't have to stress. Talking about, as we have for most of this show, tight end, running back, even receivers. And the Broncos, like Zach said, some of what Sean Payton told Kay Adams, Zach, I take with a little bit of a grain of salt, because even though he's talking to a very pretty woman and all that stuff, you can tell they have a fun kind of chemistry. They get along well and stuff. He kind of said a lot more sitting there on that couch than you would ever hear him say at a podium. So you go, well, wait a minute. Did he lose track of things here? Did he kind of get overtaken and enamored? No, I don't think so, Zach. Whatever he said on purpose. The question is, did he say what he said, like things about the needs, the middle of the defense, linebacker, safety? We're high on our receiving core. We need to get a joker. Was he throwing that out there because that's the absolute bona fide truth? Or is he trying to create some, just a little bit of tradecraft, as it were, some intrigue leading up to free agency and the draft?
It is lying season after all. It's the
Yes.
season of smoke screens and deceptions and misdirection. So absolutely, it could be a case of Sean Payton saying, look over there while the Broncos go over here. It could be a psychological operative in football terms for the Broncos. But I think some of what he said is true. They need a running back. They need a tight end. They need a Reggie Bush or a Jeremy Shockey or an Alvin Kamara, the players that Sean Payton mentioned. But Deanna, the reason for optimism here is so strong. You have the ownership group in place. You have the GM. You have the head coach. You have the franchise quarterback. You have about $38 million in salary cap space. You're coming out of the Russell Wilson contract. You made the playoffs. You won 10 games. You're a few pieces away from really contending for the conference and maybe even for a world championship. And the Eagles just showed you the best way to do so. So we're all feeling good right now in Broncos country.
Love you, Deanna. Thank you, my friend. And Lonnie's questioning the pick. So here's today, moving forward up until the draft, we're going to have a couple of mock drafts at MHH. We'll also bring to you like the key mock drafts from the credible sources around the NFL, ESPN, NFL.com, that kind of thing. But Eric and Nick are going to be dropping 7 and 3 round mock drafts basically weekly until we get to the draft. And here's mock draft Monday. Eric Trickle today, this hot off the presses. Here's his 7-round pick, and I'm not going to, or 7-round mock draft, and I'm not going to, Zach, read everything. I'm just going to read the names. Round 1, Tyler Warren, tight end, Penn State. Okay, he's hoping for the best there. And he did use, for what it's worth, Pro Football Focus's mock draft simulator, and Warren was there, so he took him. Round 2, Alec Iomanor, or Iomanor, however you pronounce his name, the Stanford receiver that is really the only guy to have success against Travis Hunter. Round 3, Lathan Ransom, safety, Ohio State. All right, hedging against the whole safety issue. Round 4, the SMU running back, Brashard Smith. Got to look at him in Mobile. Round 6, Smael Mondon Jr., linebacker, Georgia. All right. Round 6, pick 199, Oronde Gadsden II, the tight end. And then Cam Jackson, round 6, pick 209, defensive line, Florida. So there you have it. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's your 7 picks. So remember, you don't have a 5, you don't have a 7, but you have the 3 6-rounders.
Obviously, you got to love Tyler Warren falling into your lap at number 20. That's a no-brainer, Chad. And I do like the way Eric went with the mock draft, addressing the Broncos' needs. The only nit I can really pick is I don't know that I would wait that long for a running back. I'd maybe explore that in the second round, but I like a lot of the players that he decided to go with. Ransom at safety, good prospect.
Yeah, he ended up waiting until, what was it, the 4th round to take Brashard Smith. Yeah. So anyway, hey, shouts to Pearl. Great to see you tonight, my friend. Hope you're doing well. No worries about running late. Guys, we have a few messages for you, then we got to dip on out of here.
I literally cannot believe it's already been 58 minutes. You guys make it incredible. Time flies every time. Another tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and don't forget about Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out MHHmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Mile_High_Huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please, very important that you subscribe, you like, you share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really genuinely does help us grow and reach more Broncos fans, just like you, baby.
That's right. They're out there wandering the desert. They don't know that we're here waiting for them. So the more you share, the more you tell your friends and family about MHH and what we're doing here every night, the more we can take care of them, bring them into the fold. They won't be wandering anymore. But a mile high salute and a special shout out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on tonight. And guys, if we missed anybody on Facebook, forgive us. We'll make it up to you. It's hard for us to see it with the setup without Scott. So I did my best checking my phone for comments and then finding them in the chat. But it's not a perfect science when we're live minus the producer. So keep that in mind. But shouts to David Youngkin, shouts to the Papa Bear, David McElrath, Sam Bam, Taylor Christensen, MBLEX Test Prep, Eric Flynn, Cody Dubb, Mason's first super chat ever. Yes.
Thank you, Mason.
Patrick and his coffee. Love it. Thank you, Patrick. Adriano, D-Dub multiple times. Drake Wally, Todd Ostendorf, and last but certainly not least, the Lady D, Deanna Hendry. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Zach and I are off until Thursday night, but lots of content coming your way here at MHH. So stay tuned for the nightly live streams, 6 p.m. Mountain, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Have a great start to your week. We'll see you Thursday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.